All right, happy Wednesday, everyone. Let's get right into it. So, in this talk, I'm going to cover some ground on edit bones, and I'm just going to give you a quick little sample on what we're going to get into. So, I'm going to go bpy.context.object.data.edit bones, and I'm going to say bone.head.y is equal to 0.25. We'll do the tail, we'll push it on the x-axis just a little bit, and then let's go the other way. Who cares? Who cares? Okay, and then we got the roll. We're going to set it to pi divided by 3. All right, cool. So with all that said, let's get into talking about edit bones and coding edit bones with Python and Blender. So the whole thing comes down to this bpy.context.object.data.editBones. And what it is a reference. Let me pull this back up here. This is a reference, bpy.context.object.data.edit_bones. So this is a reference to the armature data belonging to the object. So if I were to say bpy.context.object. This is this is something I kind of glossed over on the previous video about pose bones. So if I were to do bpy.context.object, it would just give me reference to basically this data right here. And I could even change this. This is basically what this armature is up here. I don't know why they called both the data block and the object block armature, but here we go. So we'll just call this rig object. And now this object is named rig object, and it has its own basic transform. Oh, let's go object transform. But then if I go bpy.context.object.data, it's a reference to the data, the armature data that's associated with this object. And that would be down here. And it's currently also, like I was just complaining, referred to as armature. Data.name. Let's call this one name is equal to there we go, data armature data. That'd be a lot cleaner. Armature data. Great. So we have the object on its own on the left, and then over here we can recognize that we're working with the data associated with it. Just like a mesh has its own data, but then the object has its own like kind of transform. So with that said, bpy.context object. Oh, you know, one more thing I should mention too is that yesterday I kind of forgot to mention this on the context.object.pose.bones. So I'm going to go into pose mode. Notice the interesting thing here. The pose bones is referenced underneath the object. It's not all the data for the locations of the bones in pose mode are not referenced under the data object. Sorry. The armature data. I apologize. Let me clarify this one more time. The pose bones are associated with the object, and all the edit bones are associated with the armature data. I hope that helps. That might just give you some clarification about kind of hierarchy and how things are organized. It took me a couple months working in Blender's rigging and Python to just like that finally clicked one day. I just don't know how I like overlooked that so many times. So there you go. I hope that helps you out. And so let's get back to talking about data.editBones. So this is going to be the core of the lecture today. And from here, what I'm going to do is instead of using this the whole time, I'm going to just build a little convenience for us. I'm going to say editBones is equal to this. In fact, let's start over from the start here. Let's destroy this. And we'll start a new one so everyone's on the fresh page. And then we'll go... don't want to reference that again, so I'm going to do edit bones like that. It's equal to this. So now we have the same thing as before, and we're in edit mode. And so what is this reference? What is bpy.context.object.data.edit_bones, or in our case, edit bones? Well, it's really just a list. And just like I was explaining with the pose bones, it's pretty similar in concept to that. So the edit bones has its own list of all the bones inside of it. And I could do something like this as well for bone and edit bones. Bone, which just kind of pukes out this like ambiguous garbage. So I'm just going to call it bone.name, and then we can actually see the actual name of the bone, and if I just real quickly like add a couple more, and then I go ahead and do for bone.name, so it shows all the different bones that are associated with this. If I were to turn this on, you can see all the bone names on the left hand side. I'll just keep this on from now on. And then so it's basically a list. And so once I have this list, I can do things like reference the bone right here. I could say bone.head.x is equal to negative 0.25, and it moves. So that's just kind of a simple way to reference everything through this list. And you can also do conditionals. Like let's say I had turned off the deform on this bone. And then I could say something like for bone in edit bones, if bone.useDeform is equal to false, or let's move those. It's equal to true. My apologies. Jumped the gun there. Okay, I jumped the gun one more time here. For bone in edit bones, cannot assign, is equal to. I wasn't even reading it. Those two errors there. For bone in edit bones, if bone.useDeform is equal to true, then let's go like this. Bone.head.x is equal to plus equal to 0.25, and these should all shift the two bones on the right hand side. Okay, great. So that allows us to kind of do some filtering depending on maybe some kind of conditional. So the interesting thing about this bpy.context edit bones is that it only works in edit mode, like I was mentioning yesterday. If you go over to pose mode, you won't be able to do this kind of stuff. So if I go edit bones bone.tail .x, let's do the head, or something more interesting. And then I switch over to pose mode. I do this. I can't access the information. So for this information to be accessed, I have to be in edit mode. Just like that. So there's an interesting thing with this. I've crashed Blender a few times, and it usually comes down to basically trying to hold on to the memory object of a bone name that no longer exists, or a bone that no longer exists, and then trying to change data on it. And so I'm just going to go ahead and crash Blender. I'll show you how that bug occurs. So for the rest of the, okay, here we'll do this. I'm going to change the name to edit bones bone.name is equal to blorg. Okay, so now this bone right here is blorg. And I'm going to say, I'm just going to create a variable. I could create this variable, call it my blorg or something like that. I'm just going to call it blorg equal to edit bones blorg. And I'll check it. And let's see. Oh, I said blorg. So blorg.name and blorg.tail.x, or just do tail. So this is the one that we're talking about right here. So I've just stored blorg as a variable that holds a reference to the bone in this edit bones armature. And then what I'm going to do is switch over to object mode, delete it. Let's say I'll just create another one just as an example or something like that. This is kind of a common case scenario. I'll say blorg.tail.x is equal to 0.35, and here we go. Goodbye, Blender. So just crashed it. So fortunately, I have another version of this available. So that's how you can crash Blender if you keep trying to reference a variable that stores a reference to an edit bone, and the edit bone no longer exists, or even the armature exists. I didn't test every single bug possibility, but that gives you a pretty good idea of what you can do to crash Blender. So let's see here. And then where are the pyramids chemical manufacturing plants? You know, I watched a really cool video the other day on Funny Old World. This guy who he's clearly like really into chemistry, and he gave a really good argument for how all the pyramids were chemical manufacturing plants, and he explains it in pretty good detail too. So, all right, so let's just go through this for the rest of it, and I'll just kind of show you. This is all kind of surface level kind of information, just to kind of get your toes wet, and then we'll just kind of finish this off. So bpy.context.object.data.edit bones, and we'll do this. Edit bones is equal to, okay, edit bones, give us that. It's the same information as we just referenced, so I'm gonna go with edit bones bone dot name is equal to blorg. We just use blorg. We'll just go with beep boop. Okay, so beep boop edit edit bone. And we're gonna go ahead and change the. Okay, so let's talk about the head. Head has a vector of x, y, z, and you can actually change those all together, and then 2 ways to change them individually. I'll show this to you real quick here. 1.0, 0, 0, that kind of stuff. I'll just move it back to 0. We can do. So now that I have the reference to the head, I could do .x, .y, .z, change .z to 0.25, that kind of stuff. But I could also, x, y, z is the same as 0, or I should say this, .x, .y, .z is the same as 0, 1, 2, which is just indices to an array. So that would be like head 0, which would be x. So we're going to move that just a little bit, 0.15. Great. And then 1 is equal to 0.1. You get the idea. And then same idea with the tail. Tail is in this vector that needs 2 parentheses to close it. I can change that information if I wanted to as well. I could change the z is equal to minus equal to 0.15. Move that down. And then we can just roll it, which is also in radians, just like I was talking about yesterday with a lot of the pose bone stuff. So currently it's in 0. If I change it to pi, which is 3.14 pi radians around the circumference, it doesn't look like anything happened. But if I go over here, it says the roll is 180. Can I make this bigger? There we go. Yeah, there we go. Let's move this over here. And if in case it wasn't obvious before, this is the transform information that we're just changing right here. This is changing all this stuff right here too. And, you know, I overlooked it too. I should mention as well, like you can reference a whole bunch of information if you hit dot, just like I was explaining yesterday with the pose bones, but beep, boop, dot, and all this kind of stuff right here. So we got tail, for instance, and it has even more of this information way up here. And it has some quite a few things that are kind of that are different from pose bones. Like pose bones don't have a head and a tail like edit bones do. They just have like they have a different system for all that. So you'll find some different stuff inside of here. So continuing on, let's talk a little bit more about radians. Roll is equal to pi is equal to 180. And so I can do pi divided by 3 for 60 degrees. And I think I forgot to look it up, but I think the problem that I had yesterday was rad pi. Maybe is it import math utils? Rad pi? I still don't remember. I really apologize. Yeah. Let me try this other one that's I think from Godot. Rad pi. Oop, rad 2 degree pi. Yeah, I don't remember. Second time in a row I just failed on that. All right, so let's keep going here. Back to edit bones. So edit bones dot. Let's create a new bone, and then we'll move the head into position by, I guess, by parenting it. Let's try this out here. So edit bones, if I tab into this, I can create, it does have some interesting stuff in here like new and remove. This is for creating new bones. And I have a note to mention about that. So let's do this. New, and I'll show you here. It's asking for a name. It's just asking for a string. Dooda. And then we have a new bone. For bone in edit bones, bone.name. So this clearly exists in this list of edit bones, but check this out. If I tab out of here and then back into edit mode, I'm going to run the list of names and it's disappeared. I haven't come across any documentation that explains that it dumps any edit bones that don't have that have, like, I think what it is that the head and the tail are in the same position, and if that position hasn't been changed, or if nothing has been changed, I think it just dumps the data. So if you're going to create a new bone, make sure you modify something with it. So let me give you an example here. So edit bones, we'll create another, let's go bleeg blue. I'm struggling here with these names, really stretching. Edit bones bleeg blue, and we'll go for bone in edit bones bone.name. So it's in there, and so we can go edit bones bleeg blue dot head and then dot tail, and you'll see that it has the exact same information. So the head and the tail are both at 0, which is why we don't see it right here at the origin. So what if I do this dot y? We'll push it out on the y-axis like that. And then of course, like if I were to tab out and tab back in, that bone's still there. If I run the list, then it's going to look like for bone in edit bones, it's going to look like this, still in there. Great. So let's get bleeg blue to be a child of beep boop. So we'll do let's turn this back on over here. So we'll go like this. Edit bones bleeg blue dot parent is equal to edit bones beep boop. Yeah, I misspelled beep boop. There we go. So it's happy now. So I can show you, I'll just show you just so you can see when there's relations that now the parent is beep boop over here. Let's turn this off. I'll do it one more time so you can see, just like that. And then what's not happening is that it's not connected. Like if I were to go into pose mode, as you can see here, let's rotate the camera a little bit. You can see the relationship line a little bit. Move this out of the way. And this is now parented. But I want this to be connected to this one right here. So we'll go back to edit mode, and then we'll go with, just so you can see over here, parent, it's going to be use bleeg blue, use connect should be false. So we're going to just hit true and we'll see what happens. Boom. So it just changes to it. And then we'll also take a look again at the head. So it definitely changed. And if I remove what happens when I remove the parent? Bleeg blue's parent is equal to none. So it maintains that new position for the head. It doesn't remember the original position it was in, but you could tell a little change happened where it's no longer parented. So let's go back to parent is beep boop, and then that's good. Let's change the use connect again to true, and then I'll just show you again. Just that's connected just like that. That good stuff. Okay, and then let's delete bleeg blue. So what we have here is edit bones dot remove. And okay, here's one of those quirks I was talking about here. So in the original situation, when we added a bone, we added it with a name, my cool string, my cool bone name. Here we go. And then we just added that but bone.name, so that's in there. But then if I want to remove a bone, we have to reference the entire bone command or memory reference. So let me explain what I mean here. Remove, instead of going bleed blue, doesn't work. So what I need to do is go like this: edit bones, bleed blue, that. And then it hasn't changed because the viewport hasn't updated yet. And I've remembered this and I've forgotten it several times before. And there should be a way to, there's a way to update the viewport from code, but I just keep forgetting. So I'm just gonna go over here, and as soon as I click, then it updates it. Now, if you have like some code or you're running some type of like script, then typically it seems like when you're jumping in and out of different modes, it just kind of updates everything automatically. So, all right, so, and then inside of edit bones, for bone in edit bones, bone.name, and bleed blue is no longer with us, but we still have my cool bone name. And so I'm gonna just tab into object mode and tab out, and then do the same thing. And we just have beep boop as our friend right here. So let's add, just to speed things up, I'll just go ahead and create another one. I'll just duplicate it or whatever, just so we have a second one. And we'll go blorg. And because I want to show you how to select bones. For bone in edit bones, bone.select, it's a lot easier than the pose bones. It's equal to true. For bone in edit bones, bone.select is equal to false. And then edit bones, blorg select is equal to true. Then the interesting thing is sometimes if you want to do operations, which I'm avoiding talking about in this this lecture because it's all about edit bones, but if you want to make a bone active, here's how we do it. Edit bones from here, I believe. Bones.active, yeah. So this is essentially, there's two ways. BPY to access the edit bone, or the active bone. bpy.context.object.data.edit bones is what we've been referencing the whole time with edit bones. And so it's essentially .active, and it'll tell you what that is, .name. And that's blorg is currently active. And I can change that by saying active, and it won't work if I use a string, beep, boop. It needs to have that entire edit bone, just like we were doing with removing the bone. So edit bones, beep, boop, and then that should be active. So let's check it out. I'll change it to .name. So it's beep, boop is now active. And I don't believe this, oh, okay, it does update when I change certain elements. Okay, so the viewport basically just updates like kind of when you change other settings. So, or when you do it physically, I should say. So with the edit bones, you can also access the current active edit bone, beep boop, by just going something way simpler as active bone, and there you have it, and that's the name right there, beep boop. And you can even make changes from this command right here. .tail.x is equal to point plus equal to 0.2.1. There we go. And then what else? Parenting, we covered that using useConnect, and then I mentioned deform, use deform, which I made a video about that a couple days ago. But this little guy right here, we could just go bpy.context. Let's go back to edit bones because that's the focus here. .beep boop .use deform is equal to false, and there you see it just changed. So I hope that gave you a pretty good idea of just the kind of overview of edit bones and being in edit mode, and some of the quirks and ways that you can crash Blender and all that kind of good stuff. So happy Wednesday, and catch you later.